Hey guys, welcome back. I have here a dash cam specific for motorcycling, and this is called the Vantrue F1, and it has a front-facing camera and a rear-facing camera. You know, one of the things that I found just recently is that sometimes I turn on the GoPro to capture various things, but one thing I do have missed is kind of like close encounters. And if you watch Angry D, for example, he had two GoPros running, and when he had this accident, he did not capture it on video because the GoPros tend to have some issues with impacts, and this will take care of that. This is a great idea. I've told you guys over and over, if you ride a motorcycle, you should use a GoPro or a dash cam on it. And this is a specific motorcycling dash cam that's even better. Vantrue comes in this really nice case. Remove the cover. A really nice sheet here. It's just look inside, very well packed. This reminds me of how Apple does stuff. You just pull out one of the boxes. And you can see it's got 4 cables. I'm not exactly sure what these are yet, but it looks pretty good. I like the quality. So these are bullet style cameras. You got the logo here, and this is metal, so very well done. I like it because, you know, these sort of things you want it not to break, and having even like aluminum or anything is a much better way. And here we go. These are the 3M things. And we have another camera. So this is the benefit. It's like 2 camera system as opposed to the 1 camera GoPro setup most people would have. And of course the GoPro, it just can't keep recording. That's why you want a dash cam. So Vantrue, and then we have in the rear 1080p. So a little bit lower res, but you know, if it's for the rear, you're mostly just going to use it for any potential hazard that's coming your way. So this is a pretty long cable. So this cable, that's the connector for starting and stopping. So this is your controller, ready for installing. So this also comes with a tripod mount, which is pretty handy. And you put whatever camera you want on this, and you can put it on your handlebars. So this is a good setup. So for this, you're going to need a tiny little screwdriver like this. And I have a screwdriver just from working on computers and stuff, and that's what I'm going to be using. The reason we're removing this is because there's the SD card slot here. And that's a good idea because the SD card should be nice and sealed, and this gives you plenty of protection. So don't lose those screws, they're absolutely tiny. There we go. So there's the little door, and now you're going to need an SD card, and they recommend a fast SD card. This is a 128, so I'm going to put it in that slot. Clicks right in. And now I'm just going to put the door back on. Push it in, and that's it. So the bike I decided to do the install is my Honda St1300. If you don't know what this bike is, this is a really good sport touring machine. It's more oriented towards the touring, but I also do a lot of commuting on it, and that's the reason I want the dash cam to be on this one. Here we have everything laid out. So this is the controller. So you put this like somewhere near a handlebar or wherever you want it to control when the camera starts, records. There's all of these cables. This one, you attach it to the battery. Here are the 2 cameras, the computer or the main computer, and then there's a very sturdy mount, which I believe is, I'm not sure exactly where I'll be mounting, but that's that. And then there's a bunch of 3M tape, zip ties, and a bag of little screws. And that's pretty much all the kit and what's included. It's very straightforward. So the first thing I'm going to do on this bike is determine how I'm going to be routing the wires. And this bike has got a lot of plastic, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the bags, put everything away, remove the seat, front seat. So now with the seat out of the way, you have a little bit more access. I'm trying to figure out how I can bring the rear camera through the rear without having the wires on the outside. And this bike is just so tight, so well fitting that it's very difficult, but we'll figure it out. Now I'm going to remove this cover because that's going to give us access to the battery. A hex, we're going to remove that. Should be able to remove that, and there's our battery. You install this under the seat. Make sure that the Vantrue logo is facing up, not like this, because this is a Wi-Fi unit. You need to make sure that the reception is up. And now we're going to install the remote control. So there's a couple of things that they say in the manual. Do not cover these holes. Right over there, there's a hole with a speaker icon. Don't cover that with tape. This does come with a 3M backing tape, so you can stick it anywhere. So it depends on where you really want to install it. I'm going to route this to my handlebars. I have 2 bolts here. They're 8mm. And just this will be enough to route the wires. Let's give it a try. This is long enough, the Vantrue cable, so if I can just route it, lift it up slowly and route it. This bike has got quite a bit of space to work with, so it is in there. Cable's routed, we have plenty to kind of work with. So I'm going to move this all the way back, and now we're going to work on the battery to get power. This is pretty much plug and play, and it's got a fuse, and on this side you have a black, which is a ground. You have a battery plus, and then you have this red, which is accessory. Remove the black. This is a 10mm, and make sure that this gets nice and tight. That's our ground. Just a bit, enough to get a connection. Red wire from the dash cam, the accessories. This is how you're going to tap into the ignition. On this particular one, it's got a accessory socket here, and I'm going to tap into one of the wires just by putting a quick connection here. And what that does is, if you connect it and the ignition is off, it's not going to do anything. But when you turn the ignition on, it's going to power everything, including the camera. This way, it doesn't run your battery dry. Keep in mind, I have not used one of these, so I am hoping that this will work. So now I'm just going to close this. And it's on there. I don't know if it has worked. It looks pretty secure. So I'm going to turn on the ignition and try to hear the sound if it powers on. And it does. So it did make a good connection. And that's the sound of the camera. You want to route the front camera and make sure that it's your 4K connection. I think both should work. So that's that. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter which side it is. Now I'm going to figure out where I want it. So it's going to be very short distance. We have to pass this under the tank. That way we don't have all of this clutter. With all of this wire, you can just kind of bundle it because you don't need this much. And now we're going to connect the main camera. And now I've cleaned this spot here. This is where I'm going to be installing the camera, like this. And just make sure it's centered. But the ability with this dash cam, the Vantrue, is that you have a little hex over there and you can adjust it up and down. So just make sure that it's centered and you're going to be good to go. So now I'm just going to take the 3M tape. This stuff is pretty darn strong, so just make sure that you do it carefully. And your area is nice and clean. That's going to be good. I think that's really well centered. I like it. So I'm going to position the camera here. I put the tape right in the middle. This is pretty solid, so this is metal. That's going to be a very good position. We have our cable here, and I'm just going to run it like this. I think I will put it this way. That way it's completely inside. And this is, of course, the front camera. So I will clip it in here. Make sure you hear that click. There we go, that's the click. Also lifted the seat slightly up. I just want to see that hopefully it's not binding. There we go, fits in perfectly. I don't want the wire all over. I think this might be a very good location. There we go. And let's see. Whew. That is on there pretty tight. This 3M stuff is amazing. Let's remove the tape from the front and rear. So you can mount this anywhere. I mount it here, mainly temporary until I find a better spot. But the one thing you have to keep in mind, there's a hole where there's a microphone there, so you have to be careful not to tape over it. I'm going to turn on the bike, and we should be able to hear this. Power is on. There's a red. And it sensed all the cameras.
Start video recording.
Start video recording. So if you don't have a camera connected, it actually will sense that. It's just a nice feature to have. You might want to install the Vantrue app, and I have done that. This is the Vantrue app, and Vantrue would like to connect to devices. I'm going to click yes. So we're going to do that now. Add device, and I'm going to turn on my motorcycle, let it run. On the app itself, you're going to find quite a few options in the Vantrue. You can sync the phone, language English, the Wi-Fi, you can see where I'm connected, resolution 2160, 1080, video 2-in-1. What is that? Turn that on. I'm not sure. Setting it up. This thing just connected automatically. You know, I have Ring cameras and stuff at the house, and it's not as easy as this is. Loop recording, I put it for 5 minutes. Voice alert, sure. G sensor, I think that's if you crash, it will front and rear, I'm not sure. I have to kind of go through all these settings. You got indicator, rear, number plate, stamp. That's when you put a stamp on the video, time lapse, parking mode. Parking mode, collision detection. That is interesting. That's a cool feature because if somebody hits you while you're parked, it could still sense it and record. So I'm going to leave that on. What else does it have? Parking mode. This is a lot of stuff. Oh, 3, I'm not sure. Collision detection. Low light night vision. So that's pretty handy. I don't know. Another interesting feature is the current voltage. It tells me the voltage on the bike, 13.4. This is incredible. And then you have 12 volt or 12.5 volts. So if it drops beneath 12 volts, the camera will shut off. That way, it doesn't drain your battery. That's a great feature to have. Of course, it's got GPS settings so you can record your speed while you're riding. Last adjustment that you need to do on the camera is rotating it. So if you undo this screw, you make it go up and down, but also just twist it 180 degrees to get the accurate representation. So if your screen is flipped in the memory card, just rotate that, loosen that up and rotate it. It is time to take the bike for a spin and test the Vantrue Dashcam. This thing's got a lot of features. I am very surprised that everything is so easy to put in. But that was the install, and now it's just time to check out the quality of the video itself. The bet, it is better as a dash cam than a GoPro. because you can splice it into the ignition or into the power accessories. That way, you turn on the ignition, the dash cam automatically starts, front and rear. They start recording. They put the GPS information, the speed. It's got G sensor. If you crash, you'll record. Somebody like is messing around with your bike, try to steal it, move it, it will sense it and give a warning. A really cool feature is that when you turn off the bike, it'll keep recording for a couple of minutes. I've always thought that was a very good feature. Just keeps recording, and when it runs out of space, it just kind of loops back. So it's like one memory card, just keep it running. It's almost like a security camera for motorcycles. Yeah, I really think it's a great idea to have it on any bike. You know, I put it on this bike in specific because I do most of my street riding on this. You're talking about a 4K camera in the front and a 1080 in the rear, and I believe Vantrue probably offers a 4K for the rear eventually, if not already. What the Vantrue camera looks like, I think it looks pretty good. I think in hindsight, and I can still do it because they provided a lot of tape, I will move this camera further in because it kind of makes the profile look a little bit odd. And then in the rear, I think that's a fine location. It does cover a little bit of the Honda logo, but not much. The only other option, I guess, is like maybe in the Givey, but the Givey like kind of vibrates too much. But that should be a very rock solid location, and I mean, it's flawless. This installation of this dash cam, the Vantrue dash cam, was flawless. So alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this Vantrue dash cam install. I hope you get one. I think this is a great kit to have. You can get it on Amazon or through the Vantrue website. I'll put a link in the description below. But you know, it works for me. I love having a GoPro. I've actually talked about having a GoPro as a dash cam, but this is a much better system. Alright guys, stay safe out there, and I'll see you on the next ride. Bye.